Welcome back to Serger Tip Clips. Today, I thought it would be fun to do a really quick little project that's cute and fashionable, and it combines a lot of the things that we love. It's fast, it's easy, it doesn't require a lot of fabric, and it's a great project if you're kind of a novice or newer to serging, because there's only one seam that you need to do on your serger, and that's a twisted headband. And twisted headbands are really fashionable, and you see them all over the place on people all ages, and they're basically a narrower version of an infinity scarf. And they're a great little project for being a stash buster, also for recycling sweaters or other knit fabrics that you might have. And they're just fun to make, and you can make them in no time. I'll show you a few examples. This is a sweater that I had from long ago, and I think it had a stain on it or a hole or something that I couldn't wear anymore. But I really love the color green, and I saved it. Plus, it's super soft, and I made a headband out of this. It's warm, and it's very comfortable to wear. So that's one great way to upcycle or recycle sweaters that you love and hate to either throw away or just can't be worn anymore. Here's one of a sweater knit fabric that I purchased, and you'll see this matches an upcoming pattern that I'll be introducing pretty soon. And this one is not quite as stretchy. I think it's probably got a little bit of polyester and maybe a little rayon and spandex, not a lot, but it's not super stretchy. But it's warm, it's a sweater knit, it's nice. This is one that is a sweater knit fabric that I couldn't even tell you how long I've had it in my stash. I bet at least 10 years. I think I bought it at an expo or something. And it's a cotton cable knit fabric, and it really does not have a ton of stretch in it, and we'll talk about factoring that in just a minute. But I think it's really pretty, and because it's sort of an off-white, it goes with a lot of different things, so it's nice. Today I'm going to be using another sweater knit fabric that I have that's pretty, and this one is pretty stretchy. I'm cutting it about 20 inches long and about 7.5 or 8 inches wide. Those measurements are variable depending on the size head of the person who's wearing it, whether they've got a lot of hair, long hair, thick hair, how snug a fit you want, and what's your comfort level. Also, another beautiful alternative for fabric is a stretch velvet. And I'll refer you back to the Twice as Nice neck warmer tip clip that I did a few weeks ago. And my niece Elena is wearing a black stretch velvet one. So if you want a little bit dressier look, it's great to do that. And stretch velvet is super easy to sew. People hear the word velvet and sometimes they think, ooh, scary. Stretch velvet is a whole different story. Easy to use, sew, and it's washable too. So I am going to go to the machine and get set up for that. I'll be using a bright green thread on my serger so that you can really see it in contrast to the fabric too. But if you like what you see, be sure to subscribe to my channel. Be sure to share it with your friends. And if you have any questions, send them along. I'd love to hear from you. Let me give you the setup on my machine so that you'll be all set to go when you go to make your twisted headband. I'm using a 3-thread narrow overlock stitch, and that means that I have my right overlock needle in. My needle upper and lower loopers are all threaded with serger comb thread. I have my stitch or my cutting width on 7.5. My stitch length is on about 2.5, a little bit longer, and I have my differential feed on about 1.5 because I am going in the crosswise stretchy direction on this fabric. I'm not going to use any pins or clips on this simply because being a sweater knit, it doesn't tend to be really slippery or hard to manage, and we're not doing a really long piece either. So I'm just going to fold the raw edges together and hold it with my hands. I may stop momentarily just to readjust it a little bit, but If you want to use pins or clips, perfectly fine to do. That's fine. My fabric is folded right sides together. I have my raw edges even. I'm trimming off probably a very scant 1/4 inch of fabric, but again, however much you want to do or however wide you want to cut off is fine. So let's start stitching. Light fingers and hands so that you don't stretch your beautiful knit fabric. Just let me do a quick readjustment here. Here we go. Coming down to the home stretch. Chain off, and you can see a nice 3-thread stitch. And the reason it's nice to do this long seam on a serger is because there's so much built-in stretch to it. And of course, when you're pulling that onto your head, you do need that stretch. And who wants pop stitches? So that's why a serger is great. So the next thing is I'm going to go to the table and show you how to twist this. I'll be right back. I turned my fabric right side out. I gave it a press, and that's important to mention. I pressed it along the seam, and now I have a little bit of a crease on top, and I need that crease to be marked so that I can make the twist. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a pin, and I'm going to put it right along the crease line, one on this end, and then do the exact same thing over here. And then you'll see why I need those. They're like little landmarks now for me. Okay. And then I'm going to take this and just kind of twist it. I always feel like I'm kind of doing socks or something with this. And I'm going to bring the short edges up together, and they'll be right sides together. And this part I'm going to stitch on the sewing machine. But to create the twist, the edge with the crease or the pin is going to be pinned to the seam line. And we're just going to bring those up and mark them and pin them together just like this. And then I'm flipping it around, and I'm going to do the other one. I can find that pin right over here. That's the other end of the long crease. And I can cut off that serger thread tail too, so it's out of the way. Bring that up, match up those long raw edges, and pin that. And then we're going to go to the sewing machine, and I am going to stitch around this, and it's almost like a little cuff or a sleeve. It's very narrow, and that's why I like to do this step on the sewing machine, because it's much easier to manipulate on the sewing machine being such a small circumference. So I'll go around there, and I'll just leave enough of an opening, probably about 2 inches, so that I can pull the whole thing right side out again. So I'll go to the sewing machine, stitch this around, and I'll be right back. I've got my short seam all sewn, and I left a little bit of an opening so that I can turn it. But one thing you might want to do before you stitch this seam is pull it around your head and kind of test how much of a seam allowance you want to give it according to how tight you want it or need it. So now we're ready for the semi-big reveal. And I made kind of a small opening here, so I've got to really kind of play around to get this to come out. I should have left a little bit more, but that's okay. Now, that little opening can either be sewn by hand, which I know some people cringe when I say that, but you can either do it by hand, or you can just stitch it. You can overlap those edges, hide the raw edge underneath, and stitch it on your sewing machine. So there we have it, and let's take a look and see our little twist. I'm going to put that center seam kind of in the middle so that we can see. But look how cool that is. Let me move my scissors out of the way. Really cute. And there you have your twisted headband. It's really kind of fun. Thanks for joining me today, and happy sewing and serging.